In family law, what you see on the surface, well, it's almost never the whole story. Today, we're going to dive deep into the family dispute resolution process to see how a really skilled practitioner screens for safety. We'll use a detailed case study to uncover those hidden dynamics that can make all the difference.
It's a classic image, right? The iceberg. We'll think of a parenting dispute just like that. What you see, the part sticking out of the water, is the disagreement over schedules or holidays. But underneath, that's where the vast hidden history of the relationship lives, the patterns of control, of intimidation, and fear that really tell you what's going on. A good practitioner knows they can't just deal with the tip. They have to understand everything that lies beneath.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to break this down into 5 parts. First, we'll look at this surface-level dispute. Then, we'll talk about building that foundation of safety that's so crucial for a real conversation. After that, we'll get into the art of questioning that uncovers the truth. We'll piece it all together to reveal the full pattern. And finally, we'll face the critical decision the practitioner has to make.
All right, so let's get started right at the beginning with how a case like this first walks in the door. Okay, so let's meet the Hartleys. This is James and Sarah. They've been married for 11 years, but separated for the last 7 months. And their lawyers have referred them here to sort out a parenting dispute.
Now, on paper, this looks like so many other cases, right? James wants to move to a 50-50 care arrangement, and Sarah wants to keep things as they are. It seems pretty straightforward, almost routine. But that's exactly where the danger lies. This is the tip of the iceberg, and if you just accept it at face value, you're going to miss everything that truly matters for this family's safety. So before we can even think about diving deeper, a practitioner has to build a safe container for the conversation. This intake process, it's absolutely foundational.
First things first, let's be clear on who's actually guiding this process. That's the Family Dispute Resolution Practitioner, or FDRP for short. This person is a neutral professional. Their job is to help the conversation along so parents can reach their own agreements. Super important. They do not give legal advice and they don't make decisions for the family. These 4 steps are totally non-negotiable for a safe intake. You explain confidentiality, you clarify your neutral role, you confirm that participation is voluntary, and you set a supportive tone. By doing this, the practitioner is essentially building a container of trust. It's only inside this safe space that someone like Sarah can even start to think about sharing what's really been going on. Okay, with that framework solidly in place, the practitioner can begin the really careful work of asking questions. Questions designed to see the world below the surface. Now, I want you to really listen to the way the practitioner asks this question. It's not, did he control you? It's, tell me a little more about what that was like for you. See the difference? This isn't an accusation, it's an invitation. It puts Sarah's experience right at the center and gives her the space to describe her reality without being judged. And just like that, with that one single invitation, the rest of the iceberg starts to surface. Sarah's response, the phone monitoring, the financial control, the name-calling, it immediately changes the whole picture. This isn't just a communication breakdown anymore. This is a pattern of control, and these are the first concrete pieces of evidence. The practitioner then shifts from the general pattern to specific incidents. And notice the wording here, intimidated or frightened. This is a critical screening question because fear is the absolute core element of family violence and coercive control. These are not just moments of random anger. These are calculated tactics of control. Punching the wall next to her head isn't about the wall. It's a message about what he could do to her. Threatening to take the kids attacks her core identity as a mother, and cutting the power is a way to isolate her, to dominate her. Every single action is designed to create fear and maintain power. Okay, now let's hear from James. His explanation for punching the wall is, well, it's a masterclass in justification. He actually frames it as an act of self-control, a release. But what's missing? Any hint of acknowledgement for the terror it caused Sarah. A skilled practitioner hears not just what's being said, but what is so obviously left out. A huge part of the practitioner's job is to deconstruct this kind of language. You can see James minimizes his verbal abuse as just frustration. He justifies spamming her with texts by blaming her for blocking him. And he shifts the blame for the domestic violence order onto her lawyer, calling it a tactical move. He's taking zero responsibility for the impact of his actions. So now the practitioner's task is to step back, look at all these individual data points, and start connecting the dots into a clear, coherent pattern.
This slide really gets to the heart of the challenge, doesn't it? You have two completely different realities. Sarah's story is one of fear and control. James's story is one of a mutual communication breakdown. The practitioner's job is not to find some middle ground here. It's to weigh the evidence and figure out which narrative actually aligns with the facts. And the pattern doesn't just stop at separation. In fact, a lot of the time it escalates. Here we're seeing evidence of technology-facilitated abuse, like a tracking app and floods of messages, and also systems abuse, which is using threats of court or complaints to the kid's school to keep controlling and harassing Sarah. So when you put all of these data points together, when you map them out on what you can think of as a risk dashboard, the picture is undeniable. This was never a simple parenting dispute. This is a high-risk case of coercive control, defined by intimidation, escalation, and a total lack of accountability. The whole iceberg is now visible, and it's way more dangerous than it looked at first. And let's not forget the legal context. There's already a full domestic violence order, a DVO, in place to protect Sarah and the children. The fact that James has already allegedly breached it by showing up near her work is a massive red flag. It suggests he really doesn't care about boundaries or authority. And all of this brings us to the final and most crucial stage. With the full picture now in view, the practitioner has to make a professional judgment call. This is the crossroads. Can mediation, a process that is built on good faith and equal footing, even possibly work here? The practitioner has to ask, can Sarah really speak freely without being afraid? And maybe most importantly, is there a risk that the mediation process itself could be used as another weapon, another tool of abuse that validates James's story and does even more harm? This single question is the entire point of the screening process. It's not, can we get them to a deal? It's, can this process be safe? Because the goal isn't just to get an agreement, it's to get an outcome that doesn't cost a victim their safety and their well-being. And that really is the fundamental question we want to leave you with. When a pattern of coercive control has shaped a family's entire reality, what does a safe process really require? Well, the answer starts by seeing the whole iceberg, not just the tip, and then having the courage to act on what you find. Thanks for joining us.